In the small, picturesque village of Ashwood, nestled between rolling hills and dense forests, there lived a renowned sculptor named Victor Langley. His works were celebrated far and wide, and people often traveled from distant towns to admire his masterpieces. Victor was a quiet, reserved man who spent most of his time in his studio, a secluded cottage at the edge of the village. He rarely interacted with the villagers, and his mysterious nature only added to his fame. One crisp autumn morning, the village was buzzing with excitement. Victor had announced the completion of his latest sculpture, which he claimed was his finest work yet. The villagers eagerly gathered in the square, where the sculpture was to be unveiled. But when the cloth was pulled away, the crowd gasped in shock. The sculpture was not a beautiful figure or a majestic animal, as expected. Instead, it was a haunting, twisted figure that seemed to radiate despair and darkness. The villagers were puzzled and uneasy, but Victor simply smiled and returned to his studio without a word. That night, strange things began to happen in Ashwood. People reported hearing eerie whispers in the wind, and some claimed to have seen shadowy figures lurking near Victor's cottage. The once peaceful village was now filled with fear and suspicion. A week after the unveiling, a young woman named Eliza Harper, who had been one of Victor's few friends, went missing. Her family searched everywhere, but found no trace of her. The villagers were convinced that Victor's sculpture had something to do with her disappearance, but no one dared to confront him. Desperate for answers, Eliza's brother, Thomas Harper, decided to seek the help of a detective. Thomas traveled to the nearby city and returned with Detective Samuel Blackwood, a man known for his sharp intellect and unshakable determination. Detective Blackwood was a tall, lean man with piercing blue eyes and a calm demeanor. He listened carefully to Thomas's story and agreed to investigate the case. Blackwood began by visiting Victor's studio. The sculptor greeted him politely, but seemed guarded. When asked about Eliza's disappearance, Victor claimed he had no knowledge of it. Blackwood noticed that Victor's hands trembled slightly as he spoke, and his eyes darted around the room as if searching for an escape. The detective also observed that the studio was filled with unfinished sculptures, each more unsettling than the last. As Blackwood explored the village, he gathered more clues. He learned that Victor had been acting strangely for months, often working late into the night and refusing visitors. Some villagers claimed to have seen him wandering the forest at odd hours, carrying a large bag. Blackwood also discovered that Eliza had visited Victor's studio the night she disappeared. Determined to uncover the truth, Blackwood decided to search the forest. After hours of careful examination, he found a hidden path leading to a small clearing. In the center of the clearing stood a stone pedestal, and on it was a sculpture that made Blackwood's blood run cold. It was a lifelike figure of Eliza, her face frozen in an expression of terror. Blackwood returned to the village and confronted Victor. At first, the sculptor denied everything, but under the detective's relentless questioning, he finally broke down. Victor confessed that he had been struggling with his art, feeling uninspired and lost. In a moment of madness, he had decided to create a sculpture that captured the raw essence of human fear. To achieve this, he had lured Eliza to his studio and used her as his model, trapping her in a hidden chamber beneath the floor. The villagers were horrified by Victor's confession. He was arrested and taken away, and Eliza was rescued from the chamber, shaken but alive. The haunting sculpture was destroyed, and the village slowly returned to its peaceful ways. Detective Blackwood left Ashwood with a heavy heart, knowing that the darkness he had uncovered would linger in the minds of the villagers for years to come. As for Victor Langley, his once celebrated talent was now overshadowed by the terrible secret he had tried to bury in his art. The sculptor's secret was finally revealed, but the scars it left behind would never fully heal.